Hi, I'm Zoe Chan, the Richmond Art Gallery curator, and I'm here today to talk to you about our new summer exhibition, It Begins with Knowing and Not Knowing. I arrived at the title of the exhibition when I was reading a memoir by the British author Deborah Levy, and it comes from her memoir. It begins with knowing and not knowing, a glass of milk, rain, a reproach, a door slammed shut, a mother's sharp tongue, a snail, a wish, bitten fingernails, an open window. Sometimes it is easy and sometimes it is unbearable. Anyway, I just liked the quote because it was mysterious, and the author is writing about a time in her life when she's just going through a breakup and starting a new life, and she's at that brink of new beginnings and entering into a new world and thinking about who she is and what lies ahead for her. And I like that sort of feeling of nervousness and insecurity the same way that you might feel starting a new project. And I felt that this worked well with this exhibition, where many of the artists are engaging with aspects of spirituality and kind of exploring new routes or journeys or aesthetics. So it's kind of about creativity too. So there are 7 artists in the exhibition. Their names are Rebecca Bear, Chinwe Che, Patrick Cruz, Zoe Cry, Oghenefigor Obuama, Michelle Sound, Jimena Velasquez, otherwise known as La Posmo Baby. I chose these artists because each of them were engaging with different aspects of spirituality in some way. And I should define spirituality. I use the term very loosely, really to mean artists who are looking to connect with something larger than themselves in some way. All of these artists are doing this in different ways, but what I loved when I see the works all together is seeing the resonances, thematic, but also formal between all of the artists. So one recurring parallel between the artists is a real interest in materiality. The process is very important. They're really using the materials to explore new journeys, whether those are aesthetic, spiritual. We have, for example, Patrick Cruz, who works in painting. He's actually has gone through processes of hypnosis to access past lives. And those past lives, these experiences, are influencing the content of his paintings, which are here today. Cyanotypes are very important in this exhibition. There are 2 artists who are working with cyanotypes. We have Michelle Sound. The series is called Every Photograph I Have of My Mother. And she's reproduced these images of her mother, who is now passed away, onto elk hide drums. And I think she's one of the only artists I know in any case who's using cyanotypes in this way. She's framed these photographs of her mother's face with medicinal plants and local plants, flowers, and it's really sort of creating this kind of circle of care, this wreath of care around her mother. Rebecca Bear, or Becky Bear, is another artist who works with cyanotypes. She's interested in thinking about black hair as a connection to the sun. So she has imprinted her curly hair onto cotton fabric and made these cyanotypes. She's also used hair extensions, old hair extensions that she had previously used and has kept. And has created these photograms again on cloth. And these almost feel like their own plant life. And there's this kind of idea of growth. She often speaks about herself as a child of the sun and being adored by the sun. And she thinks of the sun as a collaborator on her projects. Chinwe Che is an artist who's working with ceramics. What I really love about her ceramic sculptures is the way that she's using her whole body, her hands, her knuckles, her knees, her feet, to create indentations in the clay. What's interesting about her process is that she's not interested in creating a commodity. She's not interested in necessarily creating a pot that could be sold and that would last forever. A lot of the clay has been baked at a very low temperature and is actually sitting in water and will disintegrate slowly over the period of the exhibition. Jimena Velasquez is a Mexican-Canadian artist. So Jimena goes also by the name La Posmo Baby. Jimena has been, since they moved to Vancouver, has been recreating some of her great-grandmother's favorite dishes or dishes that they had cooked with their grandmother. So in this case, Jimena is cooking tortillas. What I think is very interesting about Jimena is that they're not just thinking about creating connections to their great-grandmother and to Mexico, which obviously they miss, but also thinking about their own queer identity and almost creating a spectacular alter ego in the video that we see, this performance video where we see them completely decked out in these extravagant materials, very lush, bright materials, almost creating a ritual out of making tortillas. This engagement with the body turns up again with Zoe Cry's work. Zoe Cry is another local artist who is interested in how the body shapes architecture around us. She's creating paintings and soft textile installations that you feel transformed when you're within them. What's interesting is that each one is created using a ritual that she's developed herself, but also using her entire body. The shapes of the installations or the shapes of the paintings mirror the movements of her arms that she's made while making them. And finally, Fagor Obuama is a video artist. They've made a very intriguing video with these stunning images. They're based on dreams that they had over the pandemic. A lot of these dreams or nightmares are based on their anxieties and maybe semi-traumatic experiences thinking back to their time as a student at boarding school in Nigeria. So when you look at these images, they're not necessarily to be read literally. They're really based on the logic of dreams. So when I started the research around this exhibition, I realized how broad the term spirituality was. And so I found a definition by scholar Rina Aria, who's written a lot about the intersection of art and spirituality. And she really connects it to the individual with larger existential questions. So she writes, it involves thinking about life, one's own and that of others, holistically, with a cognizance of what may lay beyond the here and now, the material conditions of life. Yeah, so I thought that was helpful, and I think this is really the framework of this exhibition. Obviously, there's so many artists I could have included in this exhibition, but because of space and budget, these are seven, I guess we can say seven propositions or seven threads or modes of practices that we can think about, but I think there are many more. So I think this is just a kind of a beginning for us to think about artists who are working in this way. All of the artists are local artists, and one nice thing was, this was actually Zoe Cry's idea. She suggested that we have some gatherings before the exhibition just to get to know the other artists, and I think that's been really nice. We managed to meet a couple of times just to have food and drinks and get to know each other. That's been really lovely because the artists themselves got to discuss between themselves their interests. I think too, in contemporary art, there's been a long tradition of secularism and not sort of allowing interests in spirituality or in ritual enter into their art practices. So I think it was refreshing, maybe, for them to be able to talk with each other. But I invite audiences to, in walking through, to find those connections between the artists, because honestly, I'm still discovering them. Yeah.